Good morning, guys. I have an absolute stunner of a recipe for you today. I have very thankfully and gratefully been sent these beautiful products from Pepe Saya, which is an Australian butter company. Now, something that I thought would be really yummy to make would be maple syrup cupcakes with this delicious maple butter. So it's basically butter that's surrounded in maple syrup and vanilla beans, and it just sounds delicious. So I thought I would make something with that, as well as these delicious buttery salted caramels. This is a collaboration with Pepe Saya and Icing salt, and I've heard these are absolutely delicious. And I haven't tried one yet, so I'm gonna wait until we make the lovely cupcakes and then we can try them, and I'm gonna pop these on top of the cupcakes. So basically I'm gonna make a maple syrup cupcake base with a maple syrup buttercream, cream cheese buttercream, and then these lovely delicious salted caramels on top. So let's get into the recipe. First of all, we're gonna make our cupcakes. We've got our oven preheating at 180 degrees Celsius, which is exactly what we want. And yeah, it's a really easy recipe. We basically just bung it all into the bowl. We sift all of the dry ingredients first, put it into the mixing bowl, and then we add our wet ingredients, and then we scoop our mixture into our tins, and that is pretty much it. So it's super easy. Okay, so first up, I am going to use my butter. So I'm going to weigh out, I need 75 grams of butter. So I'm going to try and get as much of this delicious butter out of here. If you can't get hold of this, so obviously you can purchase this online, but if you are out of Australia and you can't get hold of this, you can absolutely just use regular butter, because this recipe also has maple syrup in it as well. So you're not going to lose any of the flavour. You don't have to have this butter, but I just thought to make these extra special, we're going to use this butter. So we need 75 grams of butter first. All right, so now that I have got my lovely maple butter weighed out to 75 grams, I'm going to pop it into my bowl of my KitchenAid, as well as I've got my brown sugar. Now I have, how much do I have? I have 60 grams of brown sugar that I'm going to add into my butter. Make sure that that's all in there, and then we're basically going to beat this until this is nice and creamy and light and fluffy. Now if you don't have a KitchenAid, you don't need one, you can just use a hand beater. We just want it nice and light and fluffy until it is all lovely and creamed together. Okay, so now that my butter and my lovely brown sugar has all come together nicely, it's time to add our egg. So we have one egg that is going to go straight in. If it wants to crack open, and we'll just get rid of all that shell that went in there, like so. And then we're going to add in 200 mils of maple syrup. So I've obviously used a little bit of the maple syrup that was in my lovely Pepe Saya maple butter, but as well as topped up with a little bit more maple syrup. It is really important that you use pure maple syrup here and not any artificially flavoured maple syrup, because it won't give the same taste that you want. So we're going to add all of our maple syrup, which is 200 mils, into our butter and egg mixture, and then we're going to beat this again until it is thoroughly incorporated. You may need to stop the mixer in between and scrape down the sides of the bowl, which is totally fine, and then get everything fully incorporated before we add our dry ingredients. Okay, so that has pretty much come together. There are still a few lumps in there, but don't worry too much about it. So then what we're going to do is we're going to add in our dry sifted ingredients. Now I'm just going to pop a little bowl underneath that so that if it drips, it will catch it. And then we're just going to sift in our flour. So we have 300 grams of plain flour that we're going to sift into our bowl, like so. Cool, and then we are going to add our little extra ingredients. So we have half a teaspoon of ground ginger. We have 3/4 of a teaspoon of bicarbonate of soda. And we also have a teaspoon and a quarter of baking powder. So that's going to go in the bowl as well. And then we'll sift these guys in. Get rid of any bumps. in that flour, and also it just adds a bit of air into our cupcakes as well, which makes them nice and light, which is exactly what we want. Then we're gonna pop, okay, so then we're also gonna add in our buttermilk. So we have 80 mils of buttermilk here. You can use sour cream, you can use yogurt, whatever you have on hand. You just ideally want to only use buttermilk, sour cream or yogurt, nothing else. So 80 mils are going to go into there, and then we're going to very, very slowly mix this all together. Now we want to be very cautious not to overwork our cupcake batter, otherwise the cupcakes will be quite tough and you don't want that. So ideally get it to a point where it's pretty much come together, but definitely don't overbeat it. All right, so that is looking exactly how we want it. Really nice and thick. We've still got some flour on the outskirts of the bowl, so we're just gonna hand mix this with our spatula, because we really don't want to overwork this batter. We want it to be nice and smooth so that it creates a really nice fluffy cupcake, which is exactly what we want. And take this off. Give this a nice scrape down, make sure all of that flour on the outskirts is incorporated. Now it is a lovely thick batter. Perfect. Okay, so we're gonna grab our cupcake tins. This recipe makes 12 cupcakes, and we're going to fill them roughly 2/3 full. So I've got my little cupcake cases here. Just gonna evenly distribute those. All right, and then we're gonna fill them roughly 2/3 full with the lovely cupcake batter. Alright, so now that our cupcakes are lovely and filled, we want to pop them into the oven for 20 to 25 minutes until they're lovely and springy to touch. You'll kind of know when they're done because when you push your finger onto them, they'll kind of bounce back a little bit. That's when they're ready. So we shall see once they're baked. Alright guys, so we are going to make our lovely maple brown butter cream cheese icing whilst our cupcakes are in the oven baking. So to start with, we have 150 grams of butter that I've just lightly softened, just so that it's a little bit easier to get this nice and creamy for our beautiful buttercream. So 150 grams of butter is going into there, along with 60 grams of cream cheese. So you want to make sure that your butter and your cream cheese are the same temperatures. And then to that, we are also going to add 80 grams of brown sugar, okay? Then we very, very simply, where is my little paddle? Here. We very, very simply just beat this up with the paddle beater on our KitchenAid, or if you've got a stand mixer or another stand mixer or a hand beater, use that. We want to beat it up for roughly around 5 minutes until it is lovely, soft, creamy, light and fluffy, okay? So I will show you what I mean. I'll give you a nice little view of that. Okay, so now that that has come together and it's lovely and light and fluffy, we can then add our maple syrup. So we have 120 mils of maple syrup that we're going to add all in. And then to that, we're going to add half of our icing sugar. So we have a total of 160 grams of icing sugar here. I'm going to add in roughly around 80 grams. I'm just eyeballing this. So we're going to do it in 2 halves, and then we're going to turn the mixer on again for roughly around 2 to 3 minutes until it's all lovely incorporated, and then add in the final half of icing sugar. Amazing, and that is basically it. Our buttercream, our lovely cream cheese icing is all done. We want to scrape down the sides of the bowl, and then we're just going to leave this to the side until we're basically ready to use it. Our cupcakes are now out of the oven, so I'm going to wait roughly around half an hour until they're fully cooled down, and then we can ice our lovely cupcakes. So my lovely beautiful maple syrup cupcakes have come out of the oven. They're looking lovely and they're smelling absolutely delicious. They smell super, super sweet. I think this is going to be a very lovely recipe. Okay, so I have now got my cupcakes that have cooled down. I've got my piping nozzle. I've just gone for a nice round tip there because we're going to do a nice blob with our cream cheese icing. And we're now going to decorate our lovely cupcakes. So I'm literally going to just do a nice big blob and then stick one of those beautiful caramels on the top. Now, and then a little bit of sprinkling of mold and salt. So let's get going. All right, so they're looking beautiful. There is just the tiniest little bit left of mixture here. So the icing does perfect amount for 12 cupcakes if you go for a lovely blob design. I'm gonna sprinkle on a little bit of the Maldon sea salt just onto the very tops of these cupcakes, just to help break through that sweetness. And it will also bring out that lovely maple flavor as well. And then lastly, I'm gonna pop on my beautiful buttery salted caramels. Now, if you didn't have or can't get hold of these delicious Pepe Saya buttery salted caramels, you can just use Werther's original caramels, which will be very, very similar in terms of taste, but I would definitely go for the caramel over the hard toffee that they have, because it would be very, very hard to eat them. So these are like these cute little toffee caramels. So I'm just going to stick one of those on each of our cupcakes. And they're going to look beautiful. And there we have it, guys. We have a lovely, beautiful maple syrup cupcakes with a lovely cream cheese icing. All right, guys, that is it. We have our lovely little cupcakes. Look how cute they look. So you've got that beautiful toffee caramel on the top, you've got a maple syrup cream cheese icing, and then you've got a lovely maple syrup sponge. So I think it's time to taste these bad boys. I'm so excited because they smell so incredibly sweet. All right, cheers. These are so good. Do you know what they taste like? Sticky toffee pudding. If you had this with custard, bloody banging. And this sponge is so lovely and soft in the center, but you've got kind of like a crispy edge and a crispy top from all that maple syrup in there. It's delicious. Hello guys, I am extremely sorry. I completely forgot to film the outro of that maple syrup cupcake video. I am just editing it now and completely forgot to end it properly. So as always, all of the ingredients and quantities will be in the description box below, and if you have any recommendations or anything you'd like me to bake in the future, please let me know in the comments below. And yeah, don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and we shall see you next week. Bye guys.